I always wanted to be a game designer, more specifically design characters for games, like League and Deadlock. It's a dream of mine. I'm 19. I don't know where to start. Where would you suggest I start? Well, if you're 19, I would suggest, playing games is a great start. I'd suggest another thing to think about is just make some games. Like, go design a Fortnite mod. Go make a game in Roblox, right? Like, you don't have to necessarily get hired by Riot Games or Valve or anybody to go make a cool game where you could like make character designs. Is your game going to have like 20 billion players and be super giga popular? Maybe, maybe not, right? That's kind of hard to do, even though there are some Roblox games that are insanely popular, right? But like, that doesn't mean that you couldn't then, use that game, get feedback on it, improve it, learn a lot of things, put it in a portfolio if you're ever applying to a game company, right? So that is like my number one suggestion is if you're looking to get into designing games, go make one. And you can make some games or some mods, right? Like you don't necessarily have to make a whole game from scratch when, games like Fortnite or Roblox do offer, like allow you the ability to like mod them in certain ways that you can try. That's a big deal. I think you can do that. I would also just go to start studying. And I don't necessarily mean go study like in the sense of go to school. Well, you could do that. But like study, like go find articles and stuff and podcasts and YouTube videos and GDC talks and stuff like that by game devs in the fields you're interested in, right? There's a lot of devs out there who love to share their work and have written up a lot of thoughts about how they do their work. And that's going to teach you a lot about what it means to be a game dev and a game designer and things like that. So something that I did when I started was I read a lot of posts on the old Riot forums by the devs at the time and learned a lot from those designers. Morello, Zilius, Zephyrus, Freak. No joke. Freak is, someone who's been at Riot forever, and he used to post on the forums, and he had a lot of opinions. He wasn't a designer back then, but he was in game dev, and he had a lot of opinions about the game. And so I, as a college student wanting to work on a game, like I learned a lot. So those are some suggestions I have. Another suggestion I have for people who are looking to get into games is put yourself into situations or friend groups where you're likely to meet people who work on games. Networking is super valuable for getting jobs, but also super valuable for just learning. And so if you're like, 19 and you like games, it's like maybe you try to go meet some people that work in games, right? And they might be able to like give you advice or, tell you how they think about things. Playing games and making games are totally different. Has some of Ubisoft people tell us that in a meeting. Yes, playing games and making games are totally different. I will say, though, that playing games can make you good at making games if you think about them as a game designer. And so, as an example, I have I think at this point 500 plus Steam games that I've played. And it's like part of my job as a designer legitimately is to play games and try to understand them. Understand, all the new stuff that comes out and like what's good about it, what's bad about it, how would I improve it, stuff like that is super, super valuable. The key, though, is that you have to play it with an eye for your discipline that you're interested in. You can't just play it to play it. You got to play it and think about it. And so, yeah, playing games and making games is very different, but playing games can teach you a lot if you play them with an eye for learning and try to understand what's good about these games, what's bad about these games. What are things that you might do to improve the game? What are some things you've noticed devs do that are effective at improving games? What are some things you've noticed that devs do that ruin games? Like, game devs are not perfect. There's a lot of games out there that can get worse when a dev does something to it. League of Legends is no exception. We've definitely had patches that we've made the game worse, and we have patches that we make the game better, right? And so, and it's always worth asking yourself, what are the reasons that these things are getting better, getting worse, and then that can be a really good, exercise of thought for learning and unpacking things. Can you diagnose me? You look clean. Yeah, I got it. I got you. Just talk to my, message my Discord for an appointment, and we can, make sure you're nice and healthy. Are you a real doctor or a doctor like Mundo? I am a multi-talented doctor that can do almost any job, to be honest. Yeah. I keep seeing you on YouTube Shorts, and it makes me appreciate the work Riot does for champ balance and design a lot more. Well, thank you. I'm glad you enjoy the shorts. One of these days, I keep saying it, but I'm serious, one of these days I will make a YouTube channel, and you can see more on there. It's gonna happen. It's definitely gonna happen, for sure. 100%. I'm gonna make a YouTube channel at some point. I'm thinking maybe starting in November. Maybe November is the time. Maybe November is the moment to do it. Yeah. Can we talk about ASOL rework? Personally, I felt it became a very low skill cap champion and lost most of humanity as a placement god. So the thing I'll tell you about the ASOL rework and many other reworks, the Poppy rework, the Scion rework, the Aatrox rework, there's a whole subset of reworks where the goal is not to maintain the old champion identity, because the old champion identity, for whatever reason, is heavily flawed, such that it is very unhealthy for the game, or can't maintain an audience, sometimes both, doesn't fit the fantasy well, things like that. And so when we made the ASOL rework, the goal of the rework was not maintaining his identity as a placement god. And so it's not a negative outcome that it didn't maintain it, because that wasn't the goal. The goal of the ASOL rework was to give him a new identity, because we felt like his old identity was, in the grand scheme of League of Legends, fairly unfun to play for most players. It was, fairly flawed for most players and not something most players were interested in doing. Old ASOL was the least popular champion in the game, and it wasn't close when we reworked him. There had been other champions before who were less popular than him, like old Yorick, old Urgot, things like that. But it's just an honest answer of some reworks. It is not always a goal or an important value to maintain the identity of the old character if we believe that identity has pretty meaningful problems. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's like, when we reworked Vlad, he still needed to be the healing dude, right? And I'd say the Vlad rework overall, very heavily maintained that identity, but that's okay. That's one of the things we wanted to keep in that case. But many reworks we do, especially to some the champions that don't tend to be able to hold a minimum of a player base, we tend to be well, we probably need to change the identity because this identity doesn't seem to be capturing what people, what League players generally might enjoy.